Hello, movie lovers! Have you ever watched a film that stayed with you long after the credits rolled? A story so full of heartache and wonder that it changes the way you look at the world? Well, get ready, because today we're stepping onto the Green Mile, a path paved with tragedy, injustice, and a touch of the miraculous. This is more than just a prison story. It's about a painful memory, and I'm here to guide you through it. Our film begins in 1999, Louisiana, inside a nursing home. We meet the elderly officer Paul watching the film Top Hat. Tears stream down his face. He tells his friend and fellow resident Ellie that the movie reminds him of his life back in 1935, when he was a correctional officer at Cold Mountain Penitentiary. Paul explains that he was in charge of the execution wing, known as the Green Mile because of its light green linoleum floor. He oversaw every execution that took place there. The weight of those memories is heavy on him, and that's where our journey truly begins. The film flashes back to 1935. Paul is a young officer leading his team, the decent brutal Harry and Dean, along with the perpetually obnoxious and clumsy officer Percy. They receive a new inmate, John Coffey, the biggest man Paul has ever seen. Paul reads John's file. 2 young girls, Kathy and Cora, disappeared. Their father, Klaus, found blood on the doorstep, and a search led to Coffey, weeping over the dead girls' bodies, muttering that he couldn't help them. He was arrested for the rape and murder of the 2 children. Paul reports to the prison warden, Hal Moores, whose wife, Melinda, suffers from severe, debilitating seizures. Hal asks Paul to go easy on Percy, not because he's good, but because he's the nephew of the governor's wife. Paul is told Percy will likely leave soon for an administrative job at an insane asylum, a detail that brings slight hope to the unit. One day, the officers spot a mouse inside the unit. They watch it until it darts into the solitary confinement cell. They try to find it, but fail. The next day, the mouse reappears, and Percy, in his usual cruel fashion, tries to stomp it to death, but fails. The mouse, whom inmate Dell later names Mr. Jingles, escapes. Paul and Dell watch as Percy is forced to empty the cluttered isolation room again, only to fail at catching the tiny creature. Later, as they prepare for the execution of Arlen Bitterbuck, Percy attends the electric chair rehearsal. Officer Van Hay explains that a wet sponge is placed on the condemned man's head to ensure a quick, painless death by efficiently conducting electricity to the brain. This seemingly minor detail sets the stage for a tragic future event. Before Arlen's execution, Percy bids him a humiliating farewell, upsetting Paul. Paul urges him to just leave for his administrative job. Percy refuses, saying he will only go after he oversees an execution like Brutal. That night, Paul hears laughter from Dell's cell. Dell is playing with Mr. Jingles. Paul is then called to Warden Hal's office. A dangerous new prisoner named William is arriving, a volatile man who killed 3 people, including a pregnant woman, during a robbery. Paul asks about Melinda, and Hal says her tumor is severe and untreatable. Paul returns home, only to be struck by a sudden, agonizing urinary tract infection. The pain is so severe he has to leave the house to avoid waking his wife, Jan. The next day, Paul is still suffering. Upon William's transfer, the violent inmate immediately attacks the guards. Brutal knocks him out, and they throw him in the cell. While the other officers deal with paperwork, Paul is left alone. John Coffey calls Paul closer, and suddenly he grabs Paul, placing his hand over the area of Paul's intense pain. The pain vanishes completely. "I helped you," John says simply. Paul returns home, astonished and relieved, and the next day he brings John food and thanks him. The team continues to struggle with William's constant trouble. Then comes the time of Dell's execution. Brutal and Dean comfort Dell, promising to look after Mr. Jingles. But as they speak, the mouse runs across the floor. Percy sees his chance, stomps on Mr. Jingles, and crushes him. Dell breaks down hysterically. John Coffey yells to bring the mouse to him. He holds Mr. Jingles in his hands, and through a strange power, he resurrects the mouse, returning him to Dell, healthy and whole. Paul and Brutal take Percy to the electric chair room and beat him, warning him this will be his last execution and that he must take the administrative job. Percy agrees. During Dell's execution, Percy is put in charge of the wet sponge. In an inhumane and merciless act, Percy leaves the sponge dry. The execution is a torturous, drawn-out nightmare for Dell. Brutal loses control and violently attacks Percy until Hal intervenes. Though the officers know Percy is to blame, his connections keep him safe from immediate punishment. Paul and John visit the ailing Melinda. Paul then calls a secret meeting of the prison staff, excluding Percy. He reveals his plan. They must smuggle John Coffey out of the prison to try and heal Melinda. The plan is set in motion. They sedate William with a coke laced with sleeping powder and throw Percy into the isolation cell. They take John to Hal's house. Hal, desperate, allows John to see Melinda. John approaches her, and using his unique ability, he miraculously heals her. They return John to his cell. Paul and Brutal release Percy, telling him it's time for him to leave. As Percy exits the cell, John grabs him. He transfers the sickness he absorbed from Melinda, overwhelming Percy's mind, leaving him in a trance-like state. Percy walks to William's cell, pulls out his pistol, and empties all the bullets into his body. John tells Paul, "I punish the two of them." He then takes Paul's hand and, through his touch, shows Paul the truth. William was Klaus's friend, and he was the one who raped and murdered the two girls. John had tried to heal them, just as he did with the mouse and Melinda, but he failed. Percy is investigated but is deemed insane and is institutionalized as a patient. Paul now knows without a doubt that John is innocent. He offers to help John escape. But John refuses. He says he is tired of the world's darkness, the loneliness, and the constant pain he feels from others. He says he is ready to die. Paul asks if he has one last wish. John says he has never seen a movie. The officers secretly set up a projector and they all watch Top Hat movie together. The next day, it is John Coffey's time. As he sits in the electric chair, he makes one last request. "Please don't cover my face. I'm afraid of the dark." Paul honors his wish. The execution is carried out. This is the end of the story Paul tells Ellie at the nursing home. Ellie notes that if those events were in 1935, and it's now 1999, Paul has lived an exceptionally long life. Paul confirms it. He is alive because of the miracle healing John gave him. He is over 100 years old, and he and Mr. Jingles continue to live. He believes he is being punished for allowing an innocent man to be executed. He has watched everyone he loves, his wife, his son, his friends, die. He concludes with a heartbreaking thought. "I have to live and attend your funeral too, and the funerals of everyone I have ever known in my life. I hope I rest soon so I can meet all my loved ones." That is the incredible, heart-wrenching story of The Green Mile. It asks us a painful question. How do you live with the choice between justice and a miracle? Tell us what you think about the story of this movie in the comments, and don't forget to support this video with a like, and subscribe to the channel to watch upcoming summaries of the most amazing movies.